Hey everyone, so in today's video, I wanted to talk about what I do during the day at work besides cuddling with puppies. So let's go. So for those of you who don't know me, my name is Chiari. I am a cloud and data engineer for Puma North America. I've been with Puma for about 4 years, and I've been a cloud and data engineer for about 2.5 years now. I've been doing this for quite a while, and I feel like my schedule and my responsibilities have settled enough that I can actually tell you what I'm doing now. So the first thing I wanted to talk about today is my team. So I am part of the systems engineering team, which is a team that works with servers, their OSs, storage, and me, cloud. We're about 5 or 6 people on this team, but I am the only one doing cloud on a global company. So as you can imagine, I'm probably not the only one. And I am part of the global Azure team as well, which is a team, but that is not like a reporting structure. It's just a working group of people who globally deal with cloud computing. So we have people in Germany, we have people in the Philippines, we have people in North America, and we just meet regularly to talk about cloud projects because we each handle a part of the globe to implement cloud solutions for Puma. And I also wanted to mention that I work from home 3 days a week, which is pretty sweet. I'd rather this number be 5 days a week, but you know, you get what you can get. All right, so how do I spend my time? Well, I spend my time pretty much equally between three different topics: new and future projects, support of existing projects, and miscellaneous topics. So new and future projects are basically deploying infrastructure. When somebody's like, I need a server, I need a functions app, I need blah, blah, blah. Um, I basically spend time to implement this infrastructure as requested by the internal customer. The other thing I do is I test new services. So, for example, one of the ones we've tested recently was Azure Machine Learning. We um, put it out for other people to play with, people who request a service to play with. And in the meantime, while they evaluate if the service actually works for them, we evaluate how it gets secured, how do we manage it, what are some pitfalls that we foresee if we implement this service. We don't have the luxury to always be able to test services before we have a request for it. Imagine like somebody's like, I need Kubernetes now, and we don't get a chance to see how Kubernetes would work in our enterprise environment. And the last thing that I do with new and future projects is Terraform. So a lot of the projects that we're trying to start from now on are going to be scripted or coded in Terraform, which is infrastructure as code. The advantage of this is it will allow us to really easily scale projects, and it would also allow us to create certain standards so that if a new project needs certain tools, certain resources, instead of having to rewrite everything from scratch and configure everything from scratch to make sure everything fits, all we have to do is copy the code, move it to wherever it needs to go, and the resources deployed will fit our standard, which is pretty awesome. It makes a lot less mistakes than people do. So yeah, great technology. Highly recommend it. The second part is supporting those projects that were deployed. So first thing I do is I monitor infrastructure. We need to make sure that computers, virtual machines are not running too hot, meaning that we don't use like all the CPU or we don't use all the memory. Make sure that the service that is running on machines can run adequately. Also making sure that we're not spending too much money, so keeping track of who's downloading a ton of data from our file shares or who's uploading a lot of data, and trying to figure out, are we within reasonable bounds of the usage that we expect? Because if we have usage that becomes out of bound, which is, let's say, somebody downloading 1 terabyte worth of data from Azure, then we want to be able to know that. We want to be able to be ready for this because it costs money. And we want to be able to also address it and go to the customer who did that and be like, hey, look, if you download 1 terabyte from Azure, you're costing us a lot of money. So let's make sure that we only use what we need. So, things like that, monitoring, making sure we're good. Second thing is scaling. So if somebody is like, hey, I need more resources on X, Y, and Z, or I need more services, it is part of my job to go in and increase the size of that virtual machine or increase the number of services and all that stuff. So it's not really something I do regularly because we tend to uh, try and double the requirements, just to make sure that things run. So if somebody says I need 8 gigs of RAM, then we give them 16, just to make sure that we have enough ahead of time so the service can grow and it's not a common task that we do. The third thing is troubleshooting. So yeah, of course, making sure that services work and figure out why they don't work when they don't work. It doesn't always happen at the implementation stage. Sometimes services change, sometimes new features happen, sometimes OS updates and things like that break services. So we need to troubleshoot and make sure that we understand why things work or not. It's not, again, it's not a common task, thankfully, but it is a task nonetheless. Optimize. So this one is quite important, but it is at the bottom of the list because it's something that you do once. I mean, it's an ongoing basis, but it's not really. The more you optimize, the less your optimization is worth it. So once we do optimization, which tends to be done at the beginning during the projects, um, we want to make sure that we keep our costs as low as possible. So if we notice that somebody's reading and writing a lot of data from our storage accounts, for example, we can increase the hotness of the storage account from, let's say, archive to cool to hot to transaction optimized. And it allows us to reduce the costs based on, what we see. So it doesn't happen often that we have to do this optimization, but it does happen every now and then that, you know, we would have to do that. So it's an important task. It's a very important task for our job because we need to make sure that we spend the least amount of money, which is the only field, right? This is the only field where you can say that in IT because everything else is just paying up front, right? So we need to optimize to make sure we pay the least amount of money to Azure. And the last thing is documentation. It is my favorite thing to do. Mwah. I love it. And obviously, I am joking. Documentation is the worst part of my job. It is a major pain, and it should, in theory, be done right here at the end of the new future project phase. But we do it in support because it sucks. So documentation, what it entails is documenting how the service is configured, the network configuration, the resources configuration, all that stuff, making a document, an ops guide to inform somebody who's like, how did you do this? And give them all the information. Like, this is where we're connecting, we're using these ports, we're using these services, and things like that so that they can reproduce the service if needed. It also contains troubleshooting information and common tasks information, such as this is how you restore a file, this is how you enable shadow volume, this is how you back up things, and all that stuff, right? This is the documentation of how the service works and how to use it. And then the rest of my time is spent on miscellaneous tasks. One of the big ones that I do is scripting and automation. It is really my field, right? It's something that I'm very good at, and I spend a lot of time helping other teams and helping my team with scripting solutions, uh, you know, collecting data, moving data, and or performing actions such as one of the big ones that I wrote was a script for patching all the machines that need to be rebooted manually. So it will go to all the machines, it will check the updates, it will then check all the services that are running, all the drives that are connected, it will restart it, and when it's done, it will make sure that everything is in um, restarted the way it should be and all that stuff. Or reboot computers in a certain order because failover and all that stuff. So um, one big project, I've done many scripting projects. I do PowerShell on a regular basis. So yeah, next thing is data analysis and ETL. So I do a lot of reporting. It is actually, this part is probably going to move here to in support very, very soon because one important thing that we have to do is report on things like costs, report on things like usage. Um, and so I do a lot of that. But I also help out other departments, other teams, other team members with their data needs. If there's a need to extract data through APIs, because of my scripting/automation skills, I tend to do that. I also do ETL, right? Extract, transform, load, which is how you get data from one system to another. So I am working on things like that. And the last one that I do, because Puma is getting into that, is RPA, so robotic process automation, which is a way of automating processes that are not really programmable. So think about RPA as automating a user interface. Basically, I help set up the infrastructure. I help support the teams, evaluate processes that need to be automated. I provide all the access to the RPA developers and all that stuff, and the robots as well. So a lot of this really changes from day to day, week to week. Sometimes I have a lot of future new projects. Sometimes I have a lot of support, documentation, and sometimes RPA takes a lot of my time or data analysis and things like that. So this is really a third of my time for everything, but it's on a yearly scale and not on a weekly scale. There are weeks where I will not do any programming or scripting, weeks where I will not do any Terraform. So it really varies on what I do during my day. But if there's one thing that is constant is puppies. I do a lot of cuddling with puppies. That's 3 days a week and evenings too. I am on call 24/7 during those other 4 days of the week. So yeah, puppy cuddling, extremely important. So if you're curious about how to become a cloud engineer, there is a video right here that you can click on, and it will tell you how to get a career in cloud computing. And I'll see you in the next video. Bye.